That's probably going to go 7-11 in the SEC, and they're going to have to make a run in the SEC tournament to even sniff March, and that's after an undefeated run in non-conference play. So those are my pretender and contenders. I have a UNC as the pretender. UNC is a contender. Ole Miss is the pretender.
Yeah, I'll go next, I guess. Both of, I mean, like I really like Brett and Nick's choices. I think UNC and Tennessee are incredible teams, and I think both of them are primed to make deep runs. I don't really have another like slam dunk contender. Like I could mention Auburn again, but we've talked about them ad nauseum today. I do have a pretender. I mean, I don't know if you could even consider them a pretender at this point, but my like Creighton still continues to disappoint. Like they came in with lofty expectations this season, and I mean they took a terrible loss to UConn, and I think everybody expected that. It was at UConn. Um, they didn't really have an answer for them. They're the number one team in the country for a reason, but Creighton kind of got run out of the gym there. The game against Seton Hall. I mean, if you ask me preseason how I think Creighton is going to do in Omaha against Seton Hall, I would say it's like a 15 to 20 point game because I don't think expectations for Seton Hall were that great this year, and Creighton was supposed to be really good. They went to triple OT against a Seton Hall team that is not that great of a team. And as I said the last time we recorded, this team, they've got good players in their starting five. I mean, Kalkbrenner's really good. Trey Alexander's really good. They've got the star power, but the depth is still an issue. They had 6 points off the bench in a triple overtime game against Seton Hall, and all six of those came from one guy. They don't have the depth that is required to make a good run this year, and it's gonna come back and bite them sooner rather than later. Like I think they'll still make the tournament most likely. They're not going to be a very high seed, and they're probably a second round exit at best. I could see them getting bounced in the first round if they keep playing like this.
All right, so I'll chime in. So for my contender, I'm gonna go with Purdue here. So just looking at Purdue's schedule throughout the season brings me to I believe they played in the Maui Gym tournament during Thanksgiving, and the little run they made. I believe they beat Gonzaga, then Tennessee, then like Arizona or another. They beat three top, I believe, 10 or top 15 teams in a row, and that just is kind of a small picture of what they can do in the tournament. I know in previous recent years they've kind of underachieved in the tournament, but I just believe, I mean, they've got Zach Edey, and I've got to see a team just be able to stop him. He's 7'3" or whatever it is. It's going to be very hard to contain him. So I just believe whoever they face is going to have a struggle stopping him, and I believe they can make a pretty long run with him. For my pretender is going to be Dayton, and they are 15-2, and I believe they're maybe top 20 right now. But just looking at through their record this year, they haven't really faced that much great competition, and it looks like they aren't going to the rest of the season either. So I think they'll probably be about 25 wins heading into the tournament, but I just don't think they've been tested really throughout the season to be ready to go 6 wins in a row in March. So I would say my contender is Purdue and my pretender is Dayton.
All right. It is my turn. So I agree with all y'all's. Y'all's have been really good. And I think all have very valid arguments. And so for my contender, I think I gotta go. I mean, I'm not gonna go with UConn because we go, oh, you picked the number one team in the nation. No, I'm not gonna do that. I I mean, there are just a lot of good teams. And now that this team, well, y'all know about Big Z, not the former one. I'm talking about the new one for Kentucky. My goodness, they were unstoppable. Kentucky was against Georgia. That was really bad for a while. I don't know how it got within like a 9-point game, and I still don't understand it. But it was like one of the best things I've seen. Like it was crazy. So I think Kentucky's a contender now with Big Z, and if they can keep that up, I think that's going to be one heck of a team. And I think whenever they face Auburn, I think that'll be a heck of a game in Neville Arena. A pretender. Now this one's not as hard for me to pick because this one pains me. Because at the beginning of the year, I was really excited to watch this team, and I thought they'd be really good. They've really, I mean, they still have everything out in front of them, but they've disappointed me. And that is Marquette. I think they're pretenders. I think they'll go out in the first or second round of the tournament once again. They just really haven't impressed me as much as I thought. I thought, originally, they got a win over Illinois back in November, though. But, teams change. You see it all the time. Same teams are not the same. So the team that played in November is not the same team that's playing right now. They lost to Purdue by 3, lost to Wisconsin, lost to Providence, lost to Seton Hall, lost to Butler. I don't think this Marquette team is very good. I really don't. I think they'll go about what Ken Palm says. They'll go in about 21-10. A couple more conference losses on the way. Marquette's just really disappointed me, though. I'm not a Marquette fan, but I respect the program, and just a bad year. It's not a bad year for Shaka Smart, but it just didn't really fill expectation because there was a bunch of people that really thought they could make it, make a run for it, and they still can, and they can prove me wrong. But right now, they've given me nothing to go off that. So, and now we will move on, though. I think that was a really good segment, guys. We're going to move on to expectations for the AP poll tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot of movement. I'll go first, and then I'll turn the floor over to y'all. The AP poll is just, you never really know what you're going to get out of it. But I think this week should be really interesting. I've seen a bunch that have a little bit of movement. I've seen Auburn making it into the top 10. I've seen Kansas falling. I think Kentucky will stay. I'm really interested, though, to see who's going to enter the poll for sure. And I really want to see where Dayton ends up because, an A10 team. And they're just a lot of fun to watch, guys. I hate to break it to you. I think they're going to make it high in the polls. So if anyone wants to talk about the AP poll and what they expect to see, I know the one that some of y'all are interested in is Auburn and see where they'll end up. And I really have no idea where they're going to end up. So I'm going to hand it over to y'all and talk about what you expect to see tomorrow.
So I guess I'll go first. So got 3 teams. I'm curious to see where they go, and you just spoke about one is Auburn. I think it's a lock. I think we're going to be top 10. I'm just really undecided where. Be very interesting. I think we'll be anywhere from 7 to 9, probably leaning more towards 9, but it's just I think we opened some eyeballs to some poll writers yesterday with the just dominating win of Ole Miss. There was some poll writers that were still unsure on Auburn. There was a guy that had us all the way at 24 or 23 last week and just said he hadn't seen enough. So I think yesterday may have helped that case. So I think we'll be top 10. And then the 2 teams I'm curious to see where they drop to is Memphis and Baylor. Memphis dropped 2 this week, and I believe Baylor dropped 2. So
They did, yeah.
So yeah, those 2 teams I think they'll still be in the top 20, but I think it'll be in between 15 to 20, somewhere in those. But I'm curious to see where those land.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Josh on Memphis. Memphis is going to slide a good bit after dropping 2 games that they definitely shouldn't have lost. I think you could see them fall out of the top 20, maybe fall into like the 21, 22 range. I would say somewhere between 18 and 22 is where Memphis is going to end up. A team that I think is going to rise into the top 25, and this shouldn't come as much of a surprise, considering they were the leading vote getter outside of the top 25, is Colorado State. Just came off of 2 solid wins against UNLV and Air Force. UNLV, and that's not an incredible team by any means, but I mean they've got quad 1 wins over programs like Creighton. I think that's a solid win for Colorado State. And I think they're gonna jump up into maybe the 23-ish range. Maybe I don't know if they'll jump Memphis, but they'll make their way in this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the teams that I'm most curious to see right now when it comes to the rankings tomorrow. I want to see where New Mexico ends up in the rankings. That game at home in Albuquerque against Utah State was one of the most entertaining games I've seen all year, where the teams put up a combined 185 points, and it seemed like there was no defense being played. It felt like I was watching an NBA game, quite honestly, in the Mountain West, which was quite surprising. But New Mexico also took down San Diego State little over a week ago, and then one on the road in Colorado Springs at Air Force this weekend. Not much of a win, but you can never take those conference road wins for granted. So I'm curious to see if New Mexico ends up in the rankings. I personally would have them around 23 or 24 in my ballot. As a 16-3 team, 4-2 in the Mountain West, in a tough Mountain West. And then the other team that I have that I would personally put in my rankings is Princeton. I think they've been impressive all year. I mean, they've flown under the radar, but in the Ivy League, they're 3-0. They're 15-1 overall. They've done all that's asked of them. Had one tough loss on the road at St. Joe's by only 4 points. And I think it's tough to punish a team for having a pretty easy non-conference schedule. I mean, they've won against Rutgers, so they did beat a Power 5 team this year. And I think at the same time, the metrics favor them. I think they're a top 30 to 40 team in all the metrics at the moment, and they have been for most of the year. So Princeton's the team that I would probably put in my top 25 right now until proven otherwise, until they take a lump in the Ivy League if they do. And I think they're a team that can make some noise in March as well.
I'm happy you brought up Princeton there, Nick, as they're currently ranked 50th in KenPom with their one loss coming to St. Joseph's, who's had a pretty good year as well in the A10. And so they only lost by 4 points there. It doesn't look like they're going to slow down in Ivy League play, which is not that surprising. I'd have to imagine that their head coach, Mitch Henderson, probably be getting some phone calls from some big programs or bigger programs than in this offseason. So we'll have to see. I'm sure his name will come up in some carousel names out there nevertheless. And as we move on to the next segment, our second to last segment, and we're going to be discussing the current bracketology, and courtesy and thanks to Bracket Matrix, one of my favorite sites to use, free to use, absolutely great. If you don't know what Bracket Matrix is, it takes all the brackets together and it puts it together into one. And it gives you a pretty good idea of where they're going to end up on Selection Sunday if it was today. So I'm going to read you off now. This is from January 19th. And so I'll be real with you, not much would probably change, maybe very slight things. So I think it'll be okay that we go off of this, even though it doesn't take into account yesterday, which is slightly annoying as we're recording this, but nevertheless, I can't control it. So now we're going to go on to, they have as the 1 seeds Purdue, UConn, Houston, and Kansas. I think maybe Kansas would fall to 2, but I wouldn't have a problem seeing them there. As the 2 seeds, they have North Carolina, Arizona, Tennessee, and Wisconsin. 3 seeds, they have Baylor, Duke, Auburn, and Kentucky. The only one I could see slipping there is Baylor, but nevertheless, I think that's fine. At 4 seeds, they have Marquette, Illinois, Creighton, and Dayton. How about that? A10 pride right there. Flyers at a 4 seed. Overall, the consensus. fifth